So, WWE have made some updates when it comes to next week's edition of Friday Night SmackDown. Of course, next Friday's edition of SmackDown on Fox is the go-home show for WrestleMania 37, and WWE are hyping up as a special WrestleMania edition of SmackDown on Fox. Now, WWE official Adam Pearce has announced the next Friday SmackDown, taped this week, of course, because they've got to get out of the WWE Thunderdome there at Tropicana Field before they move to another place in Florida. So this week's SmackDown is actually, I don't know if it's already been taped or it's going to be taped after tonight. Nevertheless, it will feature the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and a fatal four-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Of course, they're currently held by Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Now, next Friday, SmackDown will also feature appearances from WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and WWE Hall of Famer Edge, of course, to promote their triple threat match on Night 2 of WrestleMania 37. Now, Adam Pearce has announced the following participants for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They are Akira Tozawa, Angel Garza, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, Elias, Eric, Gran Metalik, Humberto Carrillo, Jackson Riker, Jey Uso, Kalisto, King Corbin, Lindsay Dorado, Mace, Murphy, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Shelton Benjamin, Shinsuke Nakamura, Slapjack, T-Bar, and Tucker. Now, WWE has also announced the teams that are going to be taking place as part of the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. So, as I mentioned, there is going to be a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match on the show, and it's going to see Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler defend their titles in a fatal four-way match against the Street Profits, Alpha Academy, and Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. So that is certainly going to be an interesting episode of SmackDown. Now, I've seen a few people with different reactions to this, and I think my reaction's kind of similar. I think my reaction's kind of similar in the sense that the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, look, to be honest, anyone that's featured on that show, featured in that Battle Royal, and featured, frankly, in that tag team match, I sympathise with a lot. I really do, because that means they're not going to be on the WrestleMania card. And the reason I sympathise with them is because WrestleMania is that big payday. The reason we have, or the reason WWE has, that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and the Women's Battle Royal, that was previously the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, and it was changed, rightfully so. The reason they have those Battle Royals is to get as many people on the card as possible. The reason they're trying to get everyone on the card is they're trying to get everyone that WrestleMania payday because it's the biggest payday of the year. So now you've got this group of people that were expecting to be on the WrestleMania card. They're lower down on the roster when it comes to WWE at the moment. They're expected to be part of WrestleMania and get that WrestleMania payday, and they're not getting it. And that's significant, of course, because there is no live events at the moment, so that live event bonus that they would have been used to receiving has been taken away. And obviously, I still think they're doing okay, but nevertheless, it's a big chunk of money they were expecting to get and they're not going to get. Now, this is an assumption on my point, I must say. We don't know if WWE is going to take care of them and say, look, I know that this would have taken place on WrestleMania, but we'll still pay you the same amount. I don't know if that's the case. I'll have to be honest with you there. I don't know if that's the case. But just in general, I sympathise with them, not just because of the payday, of course, because they thought they were going to be competing inside Raymond James Stadium at WrestleMania, even if it was on the kickoff show, even if it was on the pre-show, and that's not going to happen. And that obviously, after the past 12 months, I guess to them is going to be incredibly disappointed. If I was in that position, if I was, Robert Roode or Dolph Ziggler or Montez Ford or Angelo Dawkins or Rey Mysterio or Dominic Mysterio or Chad Gable or Otis, I would be very disappointed by this news, because if you're not in WWE, if you're in WWE and your goal isn't to get to WrestleMania, then I don't know what you're there for. I really don't know what you're there for. So obviously to them that's incredibly disappointing. And I saw it was interesting because Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, former WWE superstar for several years before he was released last year as part of the budget cuts associated with COVID-19, he quote tweeted this announcement. It was the Fox. You can see the graphic there, but Fox did SmackDown WWE on Fox Twitter account did a tweet as part of this announcement, and he quote tweeted that, and he said, "I feel really bad for these guys." And I thought, and I'm always interested when we see ex-WWE superstars comment on WWE matters or stuff like that on social media. I thought the replies and the responses to Matt Cardona were going to be very supportive, saying, I agree, it's BS, or I agree, I feel bad for Roode and Ziggler or the Mysterios, or I feel bad for people in the Battle Royal because they thought they were going to be appearing on WrestleMania. And the responses were staggering, to be honest. The responses were staggering in the sense that so many people were telling him to shut up. shut up, or you're not part of WWE, or you're signed with Impact at the moment, or how would you know you got released? And it was just the viciousness. And social media at the moment is really in the headlines, isn't it, for a variety of reasons. Certainly is over here in the UK. I don't know if it's necessarily as much in the United States right now or around the world, but over here at the moment it's really in the news. And just as mentioned, the viciousness or the toxicity of some of the responses. You're not with WWE, you can't have an opinion anymore. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. If there's anyone there that could know about the feeling of being left off WrestleMania cards, or the WrestleMania payday being so important and competing on the kickoff show, it would be Zack Ryder. I mean, talk about a guy that's competed on a ton of kickoff shows, or just being left off of WrestleMania in general. And knowing that, you go to year, hoping that you're going to be featured in for WrestleMania, or at least perform on that show, or serving as a motivator for next year to try and get on the card, and it doesn't happen. So I feel really bad for them. Now, obviously, the other side of the argument is what some of, the old-timers would say, and I do partially agree with their theory here, that not everyone can be on the WrestleMania card, right? Back in the day when it was just a 3 or 4 hour show on pay-per-view, you can only have a certain amount of people on that card, and you go through the year and you earn your spot on that card. And not everyone can be on there, unfortunately, and that's just what happens. That's like any pro wrestling card in general. You have to hope that you get that opportunity, or you have to bust your behind to get that opportunity. I get that. But it's kind of, look, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was prestigious probably in its first year when it was on that WrestleMania 30 card, because people didn't really know what it was. It has become a bit of a WrestleMania tradition, but it has most of the time just served as a filler for the kickoff show. There have been exciting winners in the past, haven't there? There have been, obviously, Cesaro when he was the inaugural winner and he did the body slam of the Big Show over the top rope. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And we thought at the time that would serve as a platform to elevate Cesaro into the main event scene. It didn't. It served as a way to keep Paul Heyman on television until Brock Lesnar came back. WrestleMania 32, it was a way to introduce Baron Corbin. I was a fan of that because I think it's a unique way to introduce someone to WWE programming. Now at the moment he's King Corbin and helping out Bobby Lashley on Raw. But it was a unique way, certainly a massive platform for him to make his main roster debut. Are you kidding me? Making your main roster debut at WrestleMania and winning a featured match? That's massive. WrestleMania 33, was it Mojo Rawley? That was just a method to get Rob Gronkowski on WWE television. We saw how that paid off several years later. WrestleMania 34, Matt Hardy, they had the Bray Wyatt moment. It was actually a really cool moment. It was on the kickoff show, but it was a really cool moment. And it had the Matt Hardy Bray Wyatt tag team, which didn't last that long there as well. WrestleMania 35, Braun Strowman won it. But what was confusing about that is it had the SNL guys in there. Colin Jost and Michael Che, and that would just all felt very, very strange and very forced. And obviously last year we didn't have it because of the COVID protocols of having so many people in the ring at one time. No one was really sure what was going on. There was a rush to tape it because they weren't even sure if WWE was going to be remaining open during that period of time. That was before WWE was deemed as an essential business by the state of Florida. So they didn't have it last year. I remember after the fact last year, and I don't know if this will be the case this year, I must state this when it comes to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I remember last year, there was a report that came out, and I think a few people reported this, that there was a plan for Hulk Hogan to win that match. This was back when it was going to be at Raymond James Stadium before the pandemic really hit. The plans were basically for Hogan to be entered into the match, essentially not get touched by anyone, but somehow win it. Now, obviously, Hulk Hogan is the host of WrestleMania 37 this year, along with Titus O'Neil. It is going to be taking place in Raymond James Stadium, but the Battle Royal isn't going to be taking place on the show. It's going to be taking place on SmackDown. So I don't know if they're still going to go with that. I don't know if they're going to go with Hogan somehow still winning it. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I look at the names in that Battle Royal, and only a couple stick out that possibly I think could win it. I don't think King Corbin will win it. I think he's a high-profile name in there, but I don't think he'll win it. I think if I had to pick a name, probably would be Shinsuke Nakamura. He's won a Royal Rumble before. They could play off that. I don't think Ricochet was going to win it because what has Ricochet done on television recently? Not that he's not a talent, but he's just not in the eyes of the WWE officials. Mustafa Ali is a possibility, but they would only really be the names. So who's to say? I mean, Jey Uso, I suppose. Jey Uso, it's a SmackDown event now, so maybe Jey Uso, that's a possibility. But they would be the names. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's the go-home show. Why wouldn't Hulk Hogan come out and win it? I mean, if they're going to stick with plans, maybe that's the reason. I think also the main reason here, why we're having the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match take place on the SmackDown is you have to think they would have taken place on the kickoff show for night one. There had been a report, WrestleVotes, a really reputable Twitter account. If you're not following them, be sure to follow them. There was a report came out that, and WrestleVotes tweeted this, basically saying that the WWE officials were having very serious and in-depth conversations about do we have a kickoff show for night one that includes matches on it. Obviously, they'll have the panel and they'll have the promo packages and the interviews like they do for every kickoff show, but usually, of course, there's a match on the kickoff show. And there was some discussion as to, are we going to have a match on the kickoff show for night one, because that first entrance is really important. That first entrance in front of a live crowd, of course, it's the first time we're going to have live fans in attendance for over 12 months. So that first person that walks out is going to get this thunderous reaction, not just obviously celebrating their entrance, but also celebrating the fact that WWE fans are once again in attendance. They're watching the matches live and they're seeing a WWE superstar make their entrance. That's a big deal. That entrance is a big, big moment because it feels like, there's some light at the end of this pandemic tunnel, and just the fans returning, the fans just being in attendance is one big moment, but that first entrance is another big moment. And if they play their cards right, I think this is WWE's point of view here, if they play their cards right, it can be a WrestleMania moment. That can be a real monumental moment. That can be a moment that is replayed over and over and over again over the course of the next 15, 20 years as this big moment that after a terrible 12 months, a WWE superstar finally greeted the WWE Universe in attendance for the first time. I think WWE might be looking at that for that reason. And if that's the case, and this is essentially what WrestleVotes said, that they were having discussions as we need to save that and we need to make that. We can't just waste that on the kickoff show. We need to save that for the opening moments of WrestleMania 37, night one, the main card. We need to save that for a big superstar. We don't want to waste that. No disrespect on, Chad Gable making his entrance with Otis on the kickoff show. Again, no disrespect to them, but they wanted to make that special. If they play their cards right, they could do something big. And it would appear that those reports by WrestleVotes are pretty accurate. It would appear that WrestleVotes were pretty much on the money with that one, and WWE is saving it. So there doesn't look to be any matches for the kickoff show because those kickoff matches are happening on SmackDown. It also makes it, I suppose, very interesting to say what is going to open the show. What is going to open the show for night one. I wouldn't be stunned at this point if we have a Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley open the show. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, then it comes to what would the main event be for night one, but maybe it's kind of backwards in a sense that the main event actually is really the match that opens the show. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if actually that first entrance was saved for a Drew McIntyre. I mean, arguably he's the biggest babyface performing on night one, I would say, and the whole point with Drew McIntyre, and I think this is the reason why McIntyre dropped the championship to The Miz and now Bobby Lashley, Elimination Chamber, was because they wanted to give Drew McIntyre the moment he didn't have last year. They wanted to give him that moment of winning the WWE Championship in front of a crowd, of anointing him as the top babyface on Monday Night Raw, but I guess the top babyface in WWE overall. Since Roman Reigns is a heel now, Drew McIntyre's the top babyface in WWE, right? And the whole point last year of him winning the Royal Rumble, that massive moment, and you can go back and watch it, feels like a lifetime ago at this point, but you go back and watch it and the crowd are going crazy. WWE wanted him to have this giant moment, slaying Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and the crowd going crazy and getting the moment like John Cena got at WrestleMania 21 or Batista got at WrestleMania 21, that kind of moment of being, you're the guy now, you're the world champion, you're the top babyface. He didn't get that last year because, of course, when he beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 36, there was no one there. It was a closed set, there was 0 fans in attendance. And I think for the past 12 months, WWE have almost promised McIntyre that spot of, when we get fans back in attendance, especially at WrestleMania, we're giving you that moment. We're giving you that moment of getting that big championship victory in front of fans, in front of screaming fans. It's going to be this big moment. The pyro is going to go off and it's going to be incredible. And maybe they're going to try and flip it around. As I mentioned, that opening big entrance is safe for Drew McIntyre because it puts him on that platform as the top babyface. And to kind of really kick off the show, he wins the WWE Championship off Bobby Lashley and gets that big moment he didn't get last year. And maybe that's the reason. I think most likely that's probably the reason as to why these matches have been moved to SmackDown. Again, I really sympathize for the people involved. But you also, I suppose, have to look at it. Not everyone can get on WrestleMania. I just think of, financially from those guys, it's disappointing. And again, it's a big moment. It's not only just a big moment because it's WrestleMania, but it's a big moment because it's a WrestleMania in front of a live crowd for the first time in 12 months, and they're not going to get that. There's going to be a group of guys that aren't going to get that, and that's very disappointing. But I guess that's part of the trials and tribulations of being a WWE superstar. It makes SmackDown next week interesting, absolutely. It hypes us up, I suppose, for WrestleMania. Essentially, WrestleMania becomes a 3-day event almost. All I know is that there's a lot of wrestling coming. There's a lot of wrestling coming over the course of the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited for it. And we're going to be doing watch-alongs and all that kind of stuff here on the channel. So if you haven't already, subscribe, click the notification bell. You'll be notified when we go live for all of these watch-alongs, all of these videos, all these prediction videos, previews videos, fallout videos. We will be covering it all here at WrestleNews 365. So it's going to be a very busy week, but I think a real fun week as well for everyone that has and hasn't subscribed yet. So, of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on WWE announcing a special edition of Friday Night SmackDown next week featuring an Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and a tag team title match? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.